Hi, Mitali. Welcome to this show and to all my audience out here. With me today is my really special guest joining me from London, Mitali Deypurkaystha. I hope I've got that right. I tried. Uh,
You did very well. I'm very proud of you.
Welcome, Mitali. Thank you so much for giving me time today. And I'm very excited about this conversation. And let me tell you, because I may have a very selfish reason behind it. I may write a book someday. So I'm very interested to break this down. First of all, welcome.
Thank you so
And
much for having me. I appreciate it, Salita.
thank you. And I'm so happy to have you. I want to just dive right in and begin with your journey. What's your story? What brought you from banking to your days as a banker to where you are right now, where you're helping people write a business book? I hope I've got the banking right.
You did. Although that's halfway into my story. So my story started
Okay.
a long time before that. So
Mm-hmm.
I always wanted to write. I always enjoyed writing stories. I liked writing poems. I liked writing essays. I was that, really annoying, boring kid at school that actually enjoyed doing essays and handed them in well before time. And all the other kids were like, oh God, I have to write that essay. And I used to enjoy it. I just used to enjoy it. However, I never really saw writing as a career option. My parents wanted me to be a doctor. It's all that typical thing that Asian parents always want: be a doctor, be an engineer, be an accountant, or be a lawyer. Basically,
Mm-hmm.
those are the four main things they want you to be. So I picked subjects to help me study medicine in at university. But then I won a scholarship to a writing school in Edinburgh, just a summer school, only for 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I really started to see writing as a career option. I actually, with a few other kids, we co-wrote an episode of Brookside. So
Mm.
that had a really profound effect on me, seeing the episode of Brookside and thinking, oh my God, I helped write that episode. It's on TV now. And there's
Wow.
actors and actresses acting out the scenes that I created. It just, it was no longer just a hobby anymore.
Mm.
So then I decided, no, even though my parents are upset, I don't want to do medicine. I really want to do writing. So I changed my subjects. I went to university in Manchester, did a media studies degree. I then went to London to study a master's at the London School of Journalism. And for a number of years, I was a freelance journalist in the
Mm.
northwest of England. So
Okay.
I was really, really happy there. The reason why I got into banking is I never really wanted to get into banking at all. What ended up happening was around 2001, nearly all journalists were losing their jobs
Oh,
because if you remember back in 2001, this was when the internet was really coming
right.
into the fore.
Yeah.
And a lot of editors were very short sighted. They just thought, oh, no one's going to want to read newspapers and magazines anymore. Everyone's
Mm.
going to go online. What they didn't realize is the medium was changing. That's all. People still need content. They still want to read the news. They want to be entertained. They want to be informed. They're just moving from newspapers and magazines to websites.
Right.
But editors were not listening to this.
Mm.
So a lot of us lost our jobs and we couldn't find jobs anywhere else. So
Okay.
then I spent 10 years doing lots of different kinds of jobs and I ended up falling into banking. I hated it. It was my worst job that I ever had in my life. I mean, the company I worked for, Barclays, they were very great, well,
Right.
very big bank, and they were wonderful to me. So it's not them, it's not Barclays. It's just banking was not me. That's not who I am. And I spent 10 years in the wilderness, not really knowing what to do, but I have to pay the bills, so you have to have a job. So
Mm.
that's what I did. And then in 2013, a friend of mine was telling me about this new Google update, which meant nothing to me because I'm not very technically minded at all.
Mm.
I said, "What are you talking about? Why are you telling me about this Google algorithm update thing that I don't even fully understand?" He said,
Mm.
"No, listen to me. Because of this update, website owners can no longer outsource out all of their web content, their articles, their blogs. They can't outsource out to places like Southeast Asia and Eastern Europe. They now need native speakers or native writers
Mm.
to write their website content. which
Okay.
means you can now get back into writing. You can advertise your services. And there's now website owners who are thinking, oh no, we need a native English speaker to start writing our content. And
Mm,
that was how I got back into writing. So I
okay.
started writing blog posts and articles, which then led to emails, sales pages, landing pages, and then I eventually ended up with books.
Wow.
So yeah, it's amazing to think that if I didn't have that conversation with that friend at that point, I might
Yeah.
still be in banking, hating
Right.
my life, but having to do it because I need to pay the bills.
Right. And that's interesting. You should bring that up because we always think that when someone goes into banking, it must be willingly, right? Because it's like such a, like, considered a safe job, a good job, especially for South Asians, right? Because we
Oh
think,
yeah,
yeah. And it's also interesting that you should bring up that your parents wanted you to be a doctor because
I
in India,
know.
we have this joke now, which is when, I mean, not the current generation, but at least the millennials and the even the boomers and everybody, right? The joke is that you were either a doctor or a engineer or a disgrace to your family. So which one are you? We
Yeah,
even
which
have
one? But
accountant
it's
and
really,
lawyer. Yeah. So those just won the option. So, and the joke still stands because they're like, oh, which of these three buckets do you fall into? And we've come a long way. Having said that, it's really interesting that you started out with blog writing at when it actually was a thing, right? It started to become um, very visible. We have all these humongous blogs with massive traffic. Uh, so now helping people write a business book, but you've also got your own book coming out.
yes. So my own
So,
book is really the reason, the motivation behind writing my own book is to help people understand what a book can do for them. So there's a
okay.
lot of people. I mean, I struggle to meet people who don't want to write a book. Everyone seems to want to write a book. But where entrepreneurs don't understand is what a book can do for them.
Mm,
So my book is case study based. And what I've done is I've interviewed all my previous clients and I've
mhm.
asked them, what did you do with your book? Because that is the
Okay.
key thing. You can't expect to just write a book,
Mhm.
put it on Amazon, and suddenly the world is amazed that you're an author. And it doesn't happen. I was told a few weeks ago that roughly 3,000 books per day are uploaded onto Amazon over the
Wow.
world. Per
Wow.
day, 3,000 new books, more than 3,000 new books. So if you're expecting just to write a book and then stick it on Amazon, and suddenly the world is going to be like, oh my God, you're amazing. And, I'm going to make you a millionaire. It's not
Hmm.
going to happen. It's not going to happen. Where the money is, where the entrepreneurship is in leveraging your book. What do you do
Hmm.
with your book? So what I did with all of my previous clients is I interviewed them and said, what did you do with your book? How
Hmm.
did you build your business to that next level? And every single tip, tactic, strategy they gave me, I put it into my book. Because it means now, if someone's already written a book, but then
Hmm.
they did nothing with it, they can
Yeah.
read my book and go, okay, this is what I need to do with my book. And
Okay.
all the people who haven't written a book, hopefully this will give them an end goal. They can now see it. They can visualize, oh, this is what I can do in my business. Because
Okay.
that's what the books that I help my students write. They're not, we don't do novels or poetry or anything like that. These are specifically business books,
Mm.
but not just any kind of business book. They're a business book that elevates you and positions you as an authority in your field, which
Right.
means you can charge more for what you
Mm-hmm.
do. And you also start building secondary and tertiary passive income streams through collaborations. So I
Right.
mean, I always use the example of, I'm sure that you have this in India as well. In the UK, we have these famous TV doctors.
Hmm.
So you get these same faces that you see again whenever there's some health related issue in the news. These
Yeah.
same doctors come on to news shows, and I'm sure you have them in India. You have these
Yeah.
famous people. And I always say to my students, I always say, do you believe that these doctors are actually any better, more qualified, or more knowledgeable than the doctor that you see when you're ill and you're going? And they go,
Mm-hmm.
oh no, actually, probably they probably have the similar qualifications. Like, yes, but these doctors are earning 5 to 10 times more than the average doctor because they're seen as an authority. They're a celebrity now. They're on TV.
Right.
That's what having a published book does for you. If you go out and leverage it and tell
Mm.
loads of people about it, whatever it is you're doing. You could be, we talked about Indian parents and they love doctors and engineers. Well, there's so
Right.
many doctors and engineers. But
Right.
if you're a doctor or an engineer who's also a published author, you're not just any doctor now or any
Mm.
engineer. You're the engineer that wrote that book. And now people want to say, hey, well, would you like to come and talk on my stage? Would you like to come to this event? And doors open for you. With all of my previous clients, there's one lady, I've got to give you this, it's a fantastic story. So this one lady,
Mm-hmm.
she's a financial planner,
Okay.
and we published a book together.
Mm-hmm.
And in this book, she mentions a accounting software. She's based in the States, and she mentions this accounting software and says this is really good. She endorses this accounting software.
Mm.
Anyway, we published a book, and then she spent 6 to 8 months really leveraging a book. She was sending it out to the press. She was giving copies of it to every single client that she has. She was giving them several copies so they can give it out to friends and family. So
Okay.
she really leveraged the book. Within 8 or 9 months of her publishing a book, this accounting software firm heard that she was promoting them and said, hey, would you like to be our spokesperson? She now gets paid around, I think, about $200,000 to $250,000 a year
Wow.
just to be there. That's extra. That's not even her main money. That's not from her business. That is like
Wow.
a secondary income she now has. And she just goes around, obviously not last year because of the pandemic, she couldn't do it. But the previous year, I think there was 6 or 7 speaking engagements she had around the United States of America. And she got paid about $250,000 for that. And that's an opportunity she wasn't even expecting.
Right.
She wrote the book. The reason why she wanted to have a book is she wanted to be able to charge for more for her services. So average financial planners may charge, I don't know, $100 an hour. She wanted to charge $500 or $600 an hour. But
Wow.
how can she do that? Because if you're just a financial planner, just Google financial planner in your area and you'll see 1,000 of them come up.
Yeah.
So when you see 1,000 of them, you think, well, okay, I will go with the cheapest. Why would I go with this person who charges me $500 an hour when this one charges me only $100 an hour?
Right.
But if it comes on Google that this one, $500, is an authority on financial planning, because they're a published author, and you say, oh, wow, they spoke on this stage. Oh, and
Mm-hmm.
they've got a collaboration with this software company. Oh, this person must be better than that person. That is why they're charging $500 an hour.
Yeah.
So that's what it's all about. It's about helping the perception the world has of you. So then you can charge more for your services. So that's why she was doing it. But then she got this extra
Hmm.
money now coming in from this software company.
Amazing, amazing story. And I feel like you absolutely made the case for why anyone should write a book. Because one of my questions, it's a great segue, was that I wanted to ask you was, should I write a book only if I have like something to say important, which I think the world needs to hear. So here's something that I want to say. Or should I do it because we all have something to say, but to establish credibility? Like, when should I decide to write a book? What's like the right time?
Well, I would say, great question, Savitha. I get this quite a lot. There's a lot of people who are waiting for this amazing, unique voice to come out. I'm
Hmm.
just thinking, I always use the example of one of the most famous business books in the last 10 years has been The 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. Yep, you know
Yes,
it. Most
yes.
people know it.
Yeah.
And that book is essentially about time management and outsourcing. There's nothing unique in there.
Mm.
Tim Ferriss did not invent time management and outsourcing techniques, but all he did was he just created a unique voice, just a unique filter. It's not
Mm.
even new content.
Right.
He just reimagined it as, imagine if you could do everything in 4 hours. What would your life look like? If you can have a fantastic income and just work 4 hours, imagine what your life would look like. Imagine all this time that you'd be able to spend with your family, your
Right.
friends, hobbies. That's all it was. But he wasn't reinventing the wheel. He didn't create something new there. So
Hmm.
what I would say is stop worrying about, oh, I need to find this amazing, important thing to say. For
Mm.
me, the test is, do you have a business right now where you have clients who love you, who keep coming back to you again and again, and you are creating some kind of transformation for them,
Right.
whether it's in their life, their business, their relationships, it doesn't matter.
Hmm.
If you do that, I'm a big believer that people can pay you once accidentally because you can just be a very, very good salesperson, but you
Mm-mm.
don't deliver. But if
Mm.
someone keeps coming back to you and paying you,
Right.
you're good at something, because otherwise it wouldn't keep coming back and paying you. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't you write a book to help other people with the same thing that you're helping your clients?
Right.
So, I mean, I'm going back to the financial planner. Her book is really about how to plan your finances
Mm-hmm.
so you have the best retirement, because we're now living in a world where we're living so much, we're going to be so much older. I
Yeah.
mean, the average life expectancy in the UK is already around 80 years. I think by the time I get to that age, most people will be hitting 100 before they die,
Right.
which is great. On the one hand, it's nice you have extra years to live, but it can be a problem if you didn't plan your finances, because you've now got an extra
Yes.
10 to 15, maybe 20 years you're going to live.
Mm.
Where's the money? You don't
Yeah.
want to be working at that age.
Yeah.
So her book is really just about planning, how to plan for the future. Savita, there is easily, we researched this before she started writing a book. We found there was over 13,000 books on this subject.
Wow.
That still didn't stop her from writing the book.
Right.
So when people tell me, oh my God, I don't know what to write about. Oh, it's already been done before. I went on Amazon and there's all these books. I'm like, I don't care. I don't
Mm.
care if there's all these other books. No one's going to say it like you. You're already unique. You have your own unique voice anyway. We're all
Mm.
born unique. Even if you have an identical twin, they're not you.
Yeah.
They don't absolutely think like you.
Yeah.
So stop worrying. All you're doing, I see, when you write a business book, for me, all you're doing is what you do with your clients. You're just making your knowledge and your expertise accessible in book format. That's
Mm.
all it is.
Yeah.
But by doing that, you're going to be elevated. You're going to be seen as so different. Because I always say, whatever it is you're doing, think of everybody else in your market that does what you do. And then
Mm.
ask yourself, do they have a website like me? Yes, they do. Do they have business cards like me? Yes, they do. Do they have flyers and brochures and marketing material? Yes, they do. Do they have social media presence? Are they on LinkedIn and Facebook? Yes, they do. Everyone has all the same things. So how do you differentiate yourself?
Yeah.
But how many of these people are published authors?
Yeah.
That's the difference. That's why people respect published authors, because you can have 100 engineers or 100 doctors, or you can have 100 life coaches, 100 strategy consultants, and they all have websites, business cards, all the stuff to sell their services.
Programs. Yeah.
But how many of them are published authors? Not many. And as soon as you're a published author, you're elevated. Everyone goes, oh, wow, okay,
Mm.
you're serious. You're not just a engineer, you're an expert engineer because you've written a book on this subject.
Wow.
And that's when you can charge more for what you do. You start having collaborations like this lady who got asked by the software company. You start making extra income from other places. That's how, if you look at the people who are doing really well in any sector,
Mm.
they don't just have one income stream. They have several income streams from
Yeah.
different places, from
Yeah.
different collaborations.
Yeah.
But that only happens if you're seen as an authority.
Absolutely. Wow, Mitali, that's like so many truth bombs in there. Amazing input. And I think like the way you share it, like sign me on. I'm in for this. But I mean, having said that, okay, so now you've convinced me about this case for writing a book, and maybe I can find some stuff to write about. So, should I get a book writing coach? And also, yeah, let's start there. Should I get a book writing coach? And can I not do it by myself?
Right. To answer that question, absolutely, you can do it by yourself. Absolutely. The thing is, we live in a world now, Savita, where everything is online. So if
Mm,
we were having this discussion 30 years ago, well, we wouldn't be having this discussion on Zoom because Zoom didn't
yes.
wasn't invented by then. But if we we're having this discussion 30 or 40 years ago, then we were living in a world where information was very important. You didn't have access to information straight away. So if
Mm,
you wanted to write a book, you go, oh my God, I don't even know where to start. Like, what is literally the first step? What should I take? Now you can just go to Google
yeah.
and you'll find someone, you'll have YouTube videos that'll show you step by step what to do. So you absolutely can do it by yourself. Where a book coach comes in is it's accountability. That's the difference now. And
Mm,
that's what people now buy. People no longer buy information because information is available everywhere. What they now buy is someone to break it down for them, to keep them accountable, to
mm,
motivate them. because a
Right.
lot of people start a lot of different projects, and most of us never finish most of the projects we start in life. We get all excited about, oh, yes, we're going to do this, and we
Yeah.
never do it. I always say I've got a couple of friends who are fitness consultants, and they're the same. If you want to learn how to exercise properly, you don't need a fitness coach or a fitness consultant. You can
Right.
just now go onto YouTube, and there's people there doing videos where you can just follow along.
Yeah.
What you get with a fitness coach or a fitness consultant is someone who's going to be in contact with you and say, hey, I've not heard from you in a couple of days. What's
Mm.
going on? Did you do that run that you said you were going to do?
Yeah.
If I come to your house now, am I going to see a fridge full of crap in there,
Mm.
or is it going
Mm.
to be good food in there? You need that person to be like, oh my god, they're going to check up on me, I need to stay on
Right.
this.
Right.
Whereas YouTube is not going to check up on whether you're actually doing the exercises or whether you just sat on a couch watching somebody else exercise.
Mm.
So
Mm.
that's what you're buying. You're buying accountability, you're buying motivation, you're buying inspiration. You're not buying information. So I
Okay.
would say, can you write a book by yourself? Absolutely. If you're one of those few minority people who are just real self-starters and you don't need anybody, you can just be like, oh yes, I can do this myself, then absolutely go and find the
Mm.
information, do it. A great place to start, by the way, is my blog. I actually go through all the steps of how to write a book, and I've even got a free PDF guide
I saw that.
that people can download, and it goes through exactly what you need to do to plan,
Mm.
write, edit, publish, and promote your book. So you don't
Wow.
even need someone like me. You can do it yourself.
Right.
But if you're needing inspiration, if you're the sort of person who looks at that and goes, yeah, I can do that, but I know what's going to happen in about 2 weeks' time, I'm going to want to give up
Hmm.
because I'm overwhelmed and there's too much to do.
Yeah.
That's when someone like me can really help, because I can say, okay, let's do this. Let's keep you accountable. We need to keep doing this. And you just sometimes need that person to push you and make sure you do what you said you were going to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. I feel that way about, of course, being a business coach because almost literally that's what they're paying for. You can
Yeah.
be a coach, but people are not really wanting, they know what to do
Yep.
often, and maybe in business you may need a little bit of guidance of what you should do first, and maybe, but actually what they're looking for is the accountability, the mentoring, the conversations that you can have when you get stuck, which tells me, okay, so I'm convinced that I need to get this book out. I need to build my credibility. I've got myself a coach, like you, Mitali, and now I'm ready, right? Where do I start?
Right. So, well, in my program, that issue doesn't happen because my program is an all in program.
Hmm.
So, students come in, I coach them into planning and writing their book.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have a team of editors, graphic designers, typesetters, publishers who take the manuscript and turn it into a published book for
Wow.
both paperback and electronic formats.
Okay.
So if somebody has gone to a book coach who just taught them how to write a book, but then now they're on their own,
Hmm.
this is where it gets difficult. This is why I have an all-in program. Let me tell you a story. I had a really bad experience last year. So in the summer when I was putting this program together, I had a friend of mine who said, "Oh, I'll be your test person. I'll be your guinea pig."
Hmm.
I was like, oh, okay, I just wanted to. And at this stage, I didn't even have a fully program. It was literally, I just had Word documents going through the steps of how to plan and write a book. That's all it was. I hadn't
Okay.
created my full program at the stage. But
Mm-hmm.
he said he would be my guinea pig. And I thought, oh, this is wonderful that I can get feedback from him. So he went through my program, wasn't even a real program then. And he wrote a book, and he wrote it in 6 weeks. And he did it really, really well.
Hmm.
And then he said, okay, so now what's next? It's like, well, the next thing you need to do is now we need to get the professionals involved.
Right.
So we need to get your book edited. We need to get a designer for your front and back cover. We need a typesetter. A typesetter is somebody who does all the interior design in a book.
Yeah.
And we need publishers, separate publishers for formatting for Kindle and then formatting for paperback. So he's like, okay, where am I going to get those people? I said, well, I'm quite well connected in the industry. So I've got a little black book of all these great people. Here
Hmm.
you go and ring them,
Get this
see who
done.
you like, negotiate prices with them, off you go. He must have rang a few of them and then decided, let me just see if I can find people by myself. So he went to Fiverr
Hmm.
and basically found an editor for about $200, found
Okay.
someone who can do a book cover design for about $50. He managed to get everything done under $1,000. And I'm sorry, my editors, I pay them about $1,500 to $2,000 for a
Hmm.
book. Just the
Hmm.
editing, not even not even the design or anything. And he's telling me that he's managed to get everything done under $1,000. I was really skeptical. I was like, what, are you serious? And then what happened, or this is the sad thing, he contacted me when the book was on Amazon.
Okay.
And he said, sorry, just before he was about to put the book onto Amazon, he says, I would like to dedicate the book to you. Is that okay? And I had to say, no, please don't do that. You're going to ruin my reputation. And that was so bad. I felt so bad because he's a friend of mine. But the thing is, people do judge the way a book looks. It's not just about the content. And it looked a mess. It looked like an amateur did it. The cover looks like a 14-year-old did it. It doesn't look like a professional book. It doesn't look like something that comes from Penguin or HarperCollins or one of the major publishing companies, which is, I mean, what we were just discussing 10 minutes ago. The book is all about building your authority. How is it going to build your authority if it looks like a 14-year-old produced it?
Absolutely.
It's got to look like it came from a major publishing house. Otherwise, you're not going to get the respect and the authority. And that's why you're doing it for. That's the only reason you're not writing a book for your health. You're writing a book to build your business. So that's when something clicked to my brain after that bad experience. And I thought, I don't want to be just a book coach. So now I'm a book coach and publisher. So you go through the whole process with me. And that way I sound like a control freak, don't I, Savita?
No, you don't.
I will
I'm like, wow,
control.
it's a one-stop shop. So,
Yeah, because I can then control the whole process. I can make sure that the end result looks like it comes from one of the major publishing houses, because that is how you're going to get the respect. That is how you're going to get the authority. You know, my ex-clients who now have these amazing businesses, like this lady who is now considered a thought leader in financial planning, she wouldn't have got that respect if she had like a cover from Fiverr and the editing is all sloppy and there's still typing errors in there. And she's like, we wouldn't have got that respect. The reason why she has that respect, the reason why this software company wanted to align themselves with her is they saw this book and it was like, wow, the content's amazing, but the quality is amazing as well. It's got to work. So I would say if you've, to answer your question, Savitha, if you've gone with a book coach who doesn't offer an all-in program like me, ask them, because they're a book coach, they're in the industry. Say, hey, can you give me, you know, a couple of editors, a couple of publishers, a couple of graphic designers that you know.
right.
I mean, don't just go with the first one, because it may be you want to compare prices, of course, and get the best price. So say, you know, give them 2 or 3 of each of the you know, the specialists that you need. Then you can ring them all, compare prices, but at least you know those are people that are recommended by this book coach. So they're gonna do whatever you do. Don't go to Fiverr or Upwork and just anybody can call themselves an editor. Anybody can call themselves a graphic designer. You know, anybody you can just say, hey, yeah, I can. You know, I read books. I'll just call myself an editor now. You can. There's no law saying you can't do that. You can go onto Upwork and put yourself up as an editor. I'm not saying everybody on Upwork is bad. There's some amazing specialists there. But if you don't know, how do you know someone's good? I know when I go to Upwork, I don't look for editors because I already have a wonderful team of editors. But if I needed a new editor, I can go to Upwork and I will know, oh, this person is just amazing. Oh, this person is just having me on. This person is just lying. I know what to look for. But if you don't know, if you're not in the industry, how do you know an editor is good or an editor is bad? He didn't know. This friend of mine, he got the manuscript back and he thought it was great. I found loads of mistakes, but he didn't. So I would say get guidance from your book. If you've got a good book coach, they should know a few editors, a few publishers, a few graphic designers. Go with what they tell you. Even if it seems a little bit expensive, it's better to be a little bit expensive and make sure the book is a fantastic book. Then otherwise, why did you bother writing the book? All that hard work, wasted. It's wasted.
Absolutely. So coming to hard work, because we touched upon that, a lot of people, right? One of my first clients incidentally wrote a book as well. And he was sitting a lot of these blocks, and finally he sat down and finished this book. And then, you know, he got through it. That's when I realized, like, you know, you read about creative block, writer's block. But if you were writing a business book, um, what do you do? Number one, I'm sure because you're structuring it, you're planning out your content well in advance, this doesn't happen. Like if you were to be writing a story, fiction, creating a story out of you know, your own thought process. Does this happen? Do they really have creative blocks or writer's block, as we call it? Or is there a different word for it?
It happens, but not with my students. It doesn't happen while they're writing. It
Hmm.
happens at the planning
Okay.
stage, which is
Okay.
what it should happen. That's when we need to get through it.
Mm.
Writer's block shouldn't happen while you're writing, because writing a nonfiction business book is a very different process to
Okay.
writing fiction.
Okay.
What you tend to find with fiction is I've got a number of friends who are fiction authors. And I always think they're amazing people. Their brains are wired very differently to mine. I could never, I don't think I would ever have the brains to write fiction, because my brain just doesn't work on that level. And they always say that, you know, when they start writing, they have an idea of, obviously they have an idea of what the book's going to be about, and they have a strong, at least one strong character in their mind, but
Hmm.
they always tell me that they're surprised with where their book ends up. So
Okay.
writing fiction is almost like you go on a journey with these characters yourself.
Right.
So the book grows with you. So
Yeah.
a lot of my friends who are authors, they've said the book has ended in a completely different way to what they expected originally,
Okay.
because as they were writing, they were like, oh wow, they were getting inspired by this character. You'll find
Mm.
with fiction authors, they even talk about their characters as if they're real people.
Yeah.
I always find that really interesting, because they were talking about this character and be like, yeah, but I think she'll be more like this and she does this and this is how she feels. I'm like, this person doesn't exist, they're in your brain. But they almost see these people as real people,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
because of that, the ending and what the character goes through will change. That
Okay.
is the and that this is where writer's block can happen, because
Okay.
sometimes your book has gone into a different direction, but now you're thinking, hmm, is that the right direction for it to have gone? It
Yeah.
felt right 3 days ago when I was writing this, but now I'm not sure.
Mm.
That
Okay.
shouldn't happen with a business book, because
Yeah.
you're not inventing something.
Yeah.
This is not a story that you're inventing.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is it's not it's what you're doing is you're explaining, you're demonstrating your expertise.
Absolutely.
So what I would say is your book should sound like as if you've gone to Starbucks with somebody, a
Mm.
brand new client, or maybe not even a client, a prospect,
Mm.
and you're explaining to them right from the beginning what it is you do. So in your case, as a business coach, what are the first lessons that you start teaching people when they become a client of yours? And
Yeah.
then expanding on that. And that's all it is. All you're doing is just what you do in your coaching, your consulting, whatever it is you do in your business. You're
Yeah.
just doing that. You just explain to people. So you shouldn't have a writer's block, especially if you do what my students do, which is they use a great tool called mind42.com. It's a
Mm-hmm.
mind mapping software. So
Okay.
before they're allowed to write anything, they actually create this huge mind map of every single thing that they're going to mention in the book. So
Okay.
literally you can, you can create chapters and there's sub points and sub points, and you
Okay.
can go, oh yeah, I've got a really great diagram that can go in there, or I've got a
Mm.
great photo that needs to go. And they literally plan out their whole book. It's like it looks like a massive spider's web when they're finished with it. But
Wow.
by the time they've got that, when they get to writing it, they can't get writer's block,
Yeah.
because their mind map is telling them what they need to write.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So as
I
long
get
as you
that.
do that, as long as you plan everything out, you shouldn't get writer's block. Writer's block,
Sure.
I always worry when people are writing nonfiction business books. I'm saying, and they say they got writer's block, and I instantly go, you didn't plan correctly then, because you
Hmm.
shouldn't have one. Because if you're a successful entrepreneur, you are already doing this in your business.
Hmm.
You must be, because
Yeah.
that's how you attract clients.
Yeah.
You attract clients by giving them value. You will have blog posts, you'll have social media posts where you're
Right.
giving people value and
Yeah.
educating them, because that's how it works in 2021 now. We're not
Yeah.
in the 80s. What we used to do is used to advertise and say, hey, go and come and buy my amazing thing. And then
Hmm.
people will come and buy your amazing thing. It doesn't work in 2021.
Yeah.
Now it's the opposite. Now you don't say buy me. Now it's here, let me give you value. Let me
Hmm.
give you light bulb moments. Let me give
Yeah.
you knowledge, and then
Yeah.
if you want to know more, buy from me. That's how
Absolutely.
everybody is now doing marketing, because that's
Yeah.
what works. So
Yeah.
that means you're already doing it in your business. So how the hell are you having writer's block?
Yeah. Okay.
Because you're educating and you're demonstrating your expertise on blog posts, on social media, when you're speaking with prospects and clients. You're doing it already. You just need to get all of that and put it into a book.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all it
I hear
is.
you. Yeah, I get that. So maybe it's not even a question that comes up. So I mean, That takes me to my next question, and I'm not going to keep you longer, of course, but so I need to, there's some prep that goes into it, right? Because you
Yes.
can't just decide, okay, I'm going to write my book, this is my idea, I've done the mind map, and let's go. What is the kind of prep, if you can briefly like share that? And then how does one normally schedule their day? And can people really write their books in those 60 days or 90 days?
Yeah.
Time frame.
It's less than 60, 90 days actually. My full program is 90 days, but
Okay.
my team takes 6 weeks to
Okay.
take the manuscript and publish it, because it takes a while to edit it and
Mm-hmm.
to do the interior design, and the graphic designer has to create a great book cover as well for you. So actually my students finish their books in 6 weeks.
Wow.
So it's about
Okay.
45 days. But yeah, it's very, very doable, because like I said, I go back to what I just said. What we're doing, we're not reinventing the wheel here. What we're doing is we are taking what you do in your business, the transformations you create, and the conversations that you have with your
Mm,
prospects and your clients, you're just putting that in book format.
yeah.
So if you think about it this way, and the fact that you're already doing it on a mini form, you're already doing it in blog posts and social media articles and all the stuff that you do for your business right now, you
Mm-hmm.
just need to do it on a grander scale
Yeah.
for your book. So that's the first thing. When you think, that is a mindset thing to make you stop procrastinating and worrying, oh, what am I going to put into this book? If
Right.
you're already an entrepreneur, you already have enough to say, because you're creating transformations for people right now. If you have a
Yeah.
successful business, then you're already doing it. So you just need
Yeah.
to do it in format. The second thing is mind map everything out.
Mm,
That is a big thing. A lot of people kind of think planning a book is, oh, I just know what's going to go into each chapter, and then they start writing.
right.
The problem is you need to know every single thing that's going to go into that chapter. Because what will happen is, if you don't do that, you'll write, because you'll have these great ideas, but then you'll write that chapter, then you'll get to chapter 4, then you suddenly
Mm,
realize there's something you mentioned in chapter 4 should have been in chapter 1, but you didn't put it in chapter 1. Now it doesn't
okay.
make sense. And
Okay.
this is where things can go wrong. So I will say mind map every single thought out
Mm-hmm.
before you start writing a book.
Mm-hmm.
That way you're not going to get writer's block, but also you're not going to go, oh my God, I forgot this. And this is really important. Because a lot of people think, oh, if it's something that you've forgotten, you can just stick it back in again. It doesn't work that way. Because if you just stick something into the beginning of the book,
Mm,
that will now change the tone of the whole book. So
right.
I've seen people who've been writing books for 5 years, and the reason why is they keep adding something in the beginning, but then the whole book needs rewriting. I always
Yeah.
think of a book like a domino.
Mm,
You can't just go and just put what, change. I'll just go and change that domino.
yeah.
Once you change that domino, that's going to affect the whole book now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and that's when people get really tired. And, when you meet these tortured authors who've been writing for years,
Mm,
and they're so tired and they hate their book now,
mm,
because like, they just feel like they can never get it to publishing stage,
yeah.
because because they never plan properly. So
Yeah.
make sure you plan properly, then you don't have that issue
Yeah.
later on. And the other thing I would say is, all my students dictate their book, they don't write their book. There's a
Ah.
really good app that I'm sure some of your listeners will know, called
Okay.
Otter.ai.
Hmm.
So really good transcription service, really cheap. I think it's like under $10 an hour, and they get
Wow.
up to 6,000 minutes of transcription,
Mm,
which means they just have an app on the phone, and they just speak your phone. You just speak into your phone and speak your book out. And
mm,
again, that people go, oh my God, I never thought of that. They were thinking, oh my God, they have to type this book. And oh my
me
God,
too.
I'm very slow at typing. This book is going to take me months to write. And I'm like,
That's
don't
me.
type. It's like, don't type, just talk your book
Okay.
out. In fact,
Okay.
it's easier, not just for the speed, it's easier because this is what you do with your clients and your prospects. You're talking to them. So
Yeah.
why wouldn't you do that with your book? Why would you want to type when
Yeah.
you talk with and you'll find that when you talk, the tone of your book is exactly right. Because I always say these books need to be conversational in tone. When
Mm,
people are reading a book, they need to feel like that you've just taken them to Starbucks
mm,
and they're having a conversation with you over coffee, and
yeah.
you're helping them with a problem. So for example, say that person is worried and needs help with nutrition, but they don't really understand. So one people are telling them fat is bad, another person's telling them, no, fat is good for you, carbohydrates are bad for you. They want to be reading the book as if you're sat in front of them,
Mm,
explaining to them as an expert,
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Fat can be bad, but carbohydrate is even worse for you because if you don't burn off the carbohydrates, that turns into fat in your body. And it needs to be conversational.
Mm.
And when people type, I don't know what happens. People start writing as if they're a university professor. They start be like, wanting to use all these amazing big words because I want to be so clever. And it's like,
Mm.
people don't like that. People don't like to be talked down to.
Yeah.
These books need to feel like you're somebody who's on their level, but just giving them that expertise and knowledge they need. And that comes out a lot easier if you dictate your book instead of typing it.
Wow, that's such a fantastic tip, because that would have been me trying to like type it all out, and then it feels
So
like a
fun.
lot of work. But when
Yeah.
you say dictating it, it's like, you're just, it's going straight from your head into, you're speaking into the microphone or into the app, and then you're like, it's just transcribing it. That's
And
so
as long
great.
as you have the mind map, the reason why dictating doesn't work for some people is because they didn't plan properly. So I
Yeah,
keep going back to planning is probably the most important part
important.
of your book because some people say, oh, well, I can't dictate because I lose my train of thought. It's like, why are you losing your train of thought? That means you didn't. If you dictate and you're losing your train of thought, that is a warning sign that you haven't planned properly. So I
Okay.
would stop dictating, go back to the planning stage and
Mm.
plan your book out properly. Because if you've planned your book out properly, you should not lose your train of thought because your plan will tell you, right, you've said this, now you need to say this.
Mm.
And now after that, you need to say this point. And after that point,
Okay.
you need to talk about that point. So how are you losing it's
Yeah.
impossible to lose your train of thought. So
Okay.
if you're losing your train of thought, that is your warning sign. I didn't plan properly. I need to go
Mm.
back to planning and plan out every single thing that's going to go into every single chapter.
Okay. Okay, such brilliant points. I'm going to have to listen to this interview again, because I'm sure like there's stuff that I need to take notes on. So finally comes to the end of my last question as well, is, okay, I've got my book. I've written it down. Now what? How do I get a publisher? What are my next steps? If you can again just like briefly share those.
Okay, so I mean, what that question, Savita, that would, if I answered that properly, would probably be about 2 hours. So,
No, no, don't.
yeah,
Just briefly.
it's a huge thing. There's so many different kinds of publishers. I'm
Yeah.
actually creating a resource over the next few weeks, which I will share with you so you can share with
Okay.
your audience.
Please. Yeah.
Because I've had so many people ask me this and say, I don't know, there's all these different kinds of publishers. There's traditional publishers and hybrid publishers and vanity publishers and self publishers. And they make my head hurt
Yeah.
because I don't understand all these different kinds of publishing services and which one is right for me. So
Mm.
I'm actually creating a resource where it's 21 questions. You can ask any publisher, you can ask these 21 questions, and then you'll know exactly what kind of publisher they are and whether they're right for you or whether you should say no to them.
All right.
Now, I am what you call a self-publisher. So
Okay.
what I do with my students is they write a book with me, and then I have a team of people who publish the book on Amazon,
Mm.
both
Okay.
paperback and electronic. But
Okay.
then because it's self-publishing, the student or my client, they retain complete control of the book. So they can
Okay.
do whatever they want with the book. On
Okay.
the opposite end of the scale, a traditional publisher, I I don't want to say don't go down that route, but I would say you'd have difficulty. The way the traditional publisher works is they will pay for your editing, they will
Mm.
pay for your graphic design, interior design, publishing, which makes most people go, oh, that's wonderful. I'll go with a
Yeah.
traditional publisher because they will pay me. The problem is they now own your book.
Okay. Didn't
That's
know that.
why they're not going to otherwise pay for everything, are they? So
Yeah.
their businesses, they pay for everything, and then from the book sales, they will make their money back and make even more profits. So that is how the traditional publishing business model works.
Mm.
The problem with that is they own the book, so you will only get 6 to 10% of
Okay.
profits.
Okay.
Secondly, most traditional publishers will not give you that unless you're already an existing author or you already have a following.
Mm. Yeah.
So this is the problem. So I always say, do you really want to go to a traditional publisher?
Yeah.
Because they're going to have power of the book. You will no longer own your book. You will not get all of the profits.
Mm.
They will take most of it and you'll only get small amount of profits. Plus, they're not even helping you with the marketing. They'll only give you a deal if you already have. So say, for example, you can say, I've got an email list with, 5,000 people active on it, or I've got a
Mm.
Facebook group with 10,000 people. Then they'll
Okay.
go, okay, we'll give you a publishing deal. But then if you've
Okay.
already got those people, then why are you giving control away to your book when you can have, a self-publisher who will help you publish your book, but then you can just give it to all the people that you want. So
Yeah.
I would say traditional publishing is a good idea only if, first of all, you've got a great idea that a traditional publisher wants, because most traditional publishers won't even publish your book.
Yeah.
But if they do publish your book, they will at least pay for everything up front, which is quite good. With
Okay.
someone like me, you need to, I mean, my team need paying. I have editors. So you need, it's part of the program that you
Yeah.
pay me up front. But then once you paid, it's done. With a
Yeah.
traditional publisher, you're basically getting a loan from them.
Okay.
And because of that, you'll have to pay them. And an average contract is 3 to 5 years. So you're
Okay.
stuck with them for 3 to 5 years. And the sad thing is, if you've got a good publisher, then great. But if you've got a bad publisher, they can control your book. You don't get to say how much you charge. I met this one gentleman who wasn't even happy with this book. And he
Hmm.
was like, no, I want to rewrite it. And
Hmm.
his publisher said, no, we're happy with it. So we're publishing it. So he now has a book on Amazon with his name on it that he's not
Yeah.
proud of. But he doesn't
Okay.
control the book now. The publisher said, well, we're happy with it. So we need to make our money back. So we're publishing it.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So interesting. I think, yeah, that 2 hour conversation, it'll probably need that. But I think you've shared so much brilliant information. So how do we get to the next part? Uh, we've, you shared so much here. How can people find you? How can people work with you? How can people get your book, buy your book? Please share with us because I definitely want this book that you have written. I need this.
Well, I think the
Right.
book's going to be it's going to be an eye opener for a lot of people because there's a lot of people who just, like I said, they just don't know what a book can do for them. And I hope by reading my book, it's called The Freedom Master Plan. I hope that by reading my book, it will inspire them because they will see, oh my God, I can do that in my business.
Yeah.
There's so many different strategies. You don't do all of them. You can just pick the ones that you think that will work for your business.
Yeah.
But it just means you'll be able to see what writing a book can do because
Mm.
it's important. I mean, a lot of people want to write a book, but it takes time and effort.
Yeah.
So as an entrepreneur, you need to be careful about where you spend your time and your effort and your money. You want
Mm.
to only spend it on things that will give you a big return on investment.
Yeah.
And this is the problem with books. A lot of people just don't realize the huge return on investment that you can get, but
Mm.
only if you leverage your book correctly, which is what my book is all about. It's
Okay.
how all of my former clients leverage their books and they now have these amazing businesses,
Yeah.
and they make a lot of money and they're very happy in their lives. So
Yeah.
that book's going to be out it's next Friday. So it's Friday the
12.
12th of
Yeah.
March.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when it's going to be available on Amazon. It's going to be available both Kindle and paperback, so
Okay.
whichever format you want.
Yeah.
I'm also having a Zoom book launch party, which everyone, your listeners, are invited to.
Yeah.
So it's going to be on the same day, on Friday the 12th of March. It's at 7 p.m. GMT,
Mm-hmm.
which I believe, gosh, what time is that going to be for you?
Um, what time is
Are
it
you
right
five
now?
hours ahead of me, I think, or
Yeah,
something
five and a
like that?
half maybe.
So it's a bit
Depends.
late. It's a bit late for India. I've asked my mother. My mother said, because my mother lives in Assam, and she was
Okay.
like, oh my gosh, that's gonna be midnight. You want me to stay up until midnight? It's like, yes, this is a big deal for me, mother. I'm publishing a book. Can you please be present? So she said, yeah, okay, I'll be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a little bit late, but it'll be for an hour, but it'll be really good as well because there'll be readings from the book. There'll be, performers there as well. But again, I think it'll be good for people to see what a book launch looks like. Because that
Yeah.
could be you. If you write a book,
Yeah.
that could be you. And these book launches are also a big marketing opportunity. So what I'm having is someone is live streaming
Mm-hmm.
the Zoom book launch party out over to YouTube and LinkedIn and a number of places. So again, that reach is going out. So
Yeah.
again, it's quite interesting to see how these launch parties work, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
interesting for future book writers to see.
For sure. For sure. And people can find you on LinkedIn. I'll be sharing
And I'll
your
give you
contacts.
what I'll do is I'll make sure I'll give you the link for the 5 steps guide. I think that would be really good for people to see. So if people do want to do it by themselves, they can go through that 5 step guide and literally will walk them through the 5 steps of writing and publishing a book. So they can do it themselves if they want to do it. But then
Thank
if they
you.
need more guidance, they can come to
Yeah,
me.
yeah. No, but thank you so much. I feel like if people just listen to this conversation with notes, they can get started. And then, I think yours is a great program to be a part of. Count me in at some point.
Thank
But
you.
and thank you for the PDF. People can download the PDF. I'm going to drop the link both on LinkedIn and on the podcast on Spotify. Podcast goes up on Spotify, Hubhopper, and we have a few more places it's going to be listed. On that note, thank you so very much for this amazing hour almost of our conversation, because I personally have learned so much, and I know that there are many people out there who understand that a book adds to credibility. They want to write books. I know fellow coaches who want to do this. So I think this is just amazing. Once again, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Samita. Thank you for having me.